Same reason why I wouldn't bug you if you told me that.
No, privacy is a good thing. All right, well, it's 6 o'clock, so I'll call to order our Planning Commission meeting for tonight, which is April 11th of 2023. We'll excuse Janelle and Samantha, who are not present at our meeting, but we do have a quorum, so we'll proceed. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Daniel Tanner.
Please cite the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do any of the planning commissioners have any conflicts that they need to declare tonight?
No.
All right, seeing none, we'll move right on to agenda item number 3, which is a request for a site plan and architectural approval for NCS properties located approximately 6051 South, 1900 West. And are the applicants here? Are the applicants? All right, we'll have you go ahead and come forward to the mic. We'll just have you state your name and your address, and then tell us about your project. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Commission. We appreciate your help. Nick, who is the new owner, Nick Sorensen. NCS stands for Nicholas and his wife Courtney and Sorensen. We want to. We've bought the property. I'm a friend. My name is Steve Huntsman. This is
I'm Greg Sorensen.
Greg Sorensen.
I'm Nick's father.
So we're just here to, answer any questions or, try to get this going so we can get this approved. We just want to say that we're, as Nick's partner, minor partner, we really want to get this done the way the city wants it done. We want it to be beautiful and make the city better looking. So we're trying to take this old abandoned, it's not abandoned, but the old property that was kind of run down and make it beautiful. So we actually appreciate the city's help in what we're trying to do here. So don't misunderstand. We're just trying to get it done. So anyway.
Excellent. And I think we have some pictures. Did you bring any pictures of the site? Could you just maybe walk us through kind of what it is that you're
Sure.
doing there? And
Yeah, you've got them right here. So that's the existing site plan. We're going to mainly repaint the whole structure. And then the front building up front, we're going to put some new board and batten, some modernized board and batten. We understand you want 80% of 80-20, where you want 20% of 2 different materials. So we're looking at ways to make that with the second material. If you've got any recommendations, we're up for whatever you recommend there. So we just want to make it a nice, presentable, beautiful building. The prior tenant was renting all these units out. We understand that there's some question on change of use, and we do not feel like we've changed the use, so we're looking to beautify it.
right, do any of the commissioners have any questions?
Are you going to continue to rent? Is that the plan for
We're
those
going to
units?
continue to rent out these units here. We're going to rent it to Peak Pest Control, which is they have a few trucks and a few employees that will come and go, but nothing major. But we were planning to rent out these storage spots that were rented before. So,
This area here, this will be leased out to Peak Pest Control, these 3 bays here, I believe, and maybe this one. Then the remainder of these will just be leased out to individuals that would be interested in storage space.
so we want to do whatever the city can recommend to us that will be not too costly, that we can make this a more beautiful structure. We weren't overly impressed with what the last owner did to it, but we think we can make it beautiful and make it a lot more attractive for the city. So that's our goal. That is our goal.
Yep, and I personally appreciate that. You know, it's always nice to see people want to upgrade and enhance the community and obviously make things look a little bit better.
When you say lease out the other bays, are you talking about
Storage
for
units, basically.
storage, like
Yeah, they're just
motorhome
storage
or
units.
boats or?
That's what they were before.
Okay.
It's just, when we bought the property, they agreed to clean them all out from his prior tenants. And so we were just going to continue to do that. Since the use of that transfers with the property, not with the owners.
Right.
So we assume it was a conforming use. I don't know. We haven't asked. Is this a non-conforming use or was it a conforming use? The way it was in that zone.
That's what I'll have to research. I was unaware that those were being rented out. The regional commercial zone and then now the downtown gateway, it's not a use that's allowed, so we'll have to,
Okay, so it might be a legal non-conforming because.
but we'll have to make sure that the previous guy had it legal at the time.
Yeah,
So those are things
Yeah.
I can research because I didn't know that was part of it or it'd be part of my memo.
yeah.
So-
So those were all being leased, so anyway.
Anything,
Rented, how's that?
anything else from any of the commissioners or anything else you would like to add? Okay, well, okay, yeah, we'll turn it over to
We'll sit
Steve.
down,
All
and if you have any questions, just ask us if you have any reviews or anything you want to discuss.
right, sounds good. Thank you. We'll turn it over to Steve. You can give us your presentation.
So as mentioned, this is a request for site plan and architectural approval for the property there at approximately 6051 South, 1900 West. The reason why it is coming to you, because it is a change of use from a retail repair to a service, pest control. I'll look again at the renting out the bays and stuff. I know the building has been there forever, and I know before regional commercial, warehouse storage and stuff was allowed, so I'm leaning probably more towards it has been allowed versus not, but I just gotta, want to make sure that, grandfathering rights and stuff like that are continuing. So if he had rights, it hasn't been vacated for more than a year or abandoned for more than a year, so they would continue. So we'll look into that, but, let's get the site plan approved and stuff like that first. So just location, just kind of right across the street from Sacco's, which was in here last year just to remodel their building, repaint it and stuff like that. So as a site plan, here's kind of how it lays out today. There are some things that staff had mentioned. The ordinance does require landscape islands at the beginning and end of parking stalls, and after 8, have another landscape island. Again, the landscaping by ordinance is not tree, shrub, and, plants. It can be rocks and stuff. So, to put in a rock landscape island is not that difficult. Wouldn't cause, a whole lot, and especially irrigation, unless they put plants in, it wouldn't be there. So that's, again, kind of a minor issue. And the full-fledged things, the bigger one is going to be, because it is a change of use, I just need a letter from UDOT. What is UDOT going to require, what they're not? So some of the site may change. So say they close the northern access point, we just make that landscaping and, call it good. If they close the southern one, then we close the southern one. But if UDOT says, we don't need to close any of them, then it kind of stays here. So even if UDOT does require closing of either of those, it is a big change, but not really. I mean, it's just adding landscaping, closing that off, and going from there. So adding landscaping is only going to make the site look better. It's only going to improve it. So that's why staff would recommend approval of the site plan, even though there are kind of some, a letter from UDOT sounds big, but it's not going to be huge in the sense of changing the overall or the site itself. As for the building, again, most of it, they're just going to repaint the existing material, freshen it up, make it look better. The main building that does face the street, they are changing the materials. But our ordinance does have quite a variety of materials that they can put in it, so, making sure that the 80 and 20 are met. Again, wood, metal, brick, stone are all primary type materials, and kind of the list of secondary can be, the same, so they could have, a wood and a metal, or a wood and brick, and so those type of things, again, even though it's not on here showing exactly what it is, as long as they use approved materials in a manner of, having an 80-20 split, it really is not gonna change it. The building's not huge, so, it's not like a 4-story building, all of a sudden you got some big architectural stuff going into it. It's almost like an old house that has a 10-foot wall and then a roof, and you're pretty much done, so. Staff would still recommend approval of the architectural, even though we don't have it in design-wise of what they'll use, but it can be very simple with, wainscot or a column going up of a different material, so. And then just part of your staff report had the DRC comments. More for your information, just to know that, engineering, public works, building, fire, look at these things. Usually you just get staff's comments, or, for planning, and then sometimes we get questions of what other departments look at. So you really only have jurisdiction to look at what planning is talking about, not, what fire and engineering are requiring. Engineering does have some storm drain type things, but if it's a detention pond in the back, it really doesn't change how it looks and interacts with the street side. So again, staff would recommend approval for both, with the conditions as outlined.
Right, well, additional conditions, if it's not grandfathered in on the use as storage units, because if it was an appliance place, that was self-storage of his product, and not necessarily being a rental unit, it was just a storage unit for his own personal stuff. So I think, should it be based off, okay, we can approve it, but it's not the okay to actually do the rental units until it's confirmed that it's allowed. Go ahead.
Move to the mic.
You need to come to the microphone so we can hear you.
For any business that we want to do there, we would come in and get a business license.
Right.
And so you'd still have the leeway to approve or reject any business license.
Well, but it sounded like you were gonna rent out the
We would
units
like to
for-
if you consider that a legal non-conforming.
Okay. I'm just saying, if
Only
we do,
because that transfers with the property, not with the owner.
right. So
Yeah,
we're
and
saying
so
that,
for our purposes here, we're just looking at the site plan
To
and
to
the
make
architecture.
improvements, yeah.
and
that's
this
all we're doing.
approval
Steve will have to
doesn't-
do some research, and so our approval will be of the site plan and
Yeah, we
the
can address the rental
architecture,
later.
but
Right,
It sounds like you'd need some proof that it was being
right,
rented out,
yeah,
and that was a conform, before we decided to rent it out. We'll provide that as a different, that's really separate from this condition.
More of an administrative type thing. So if it had been rented out since 2003 and it was legal at the time,
right.
they have the rights regardless of what current ordinances allow or not allow. So those are just something I'd have to look into.
So we would just, if we were to approve the site plan tonight, we'd approve it with conditions that it meets conformance and recommendations as outlined in the report.
Well, again,
Or no?
worst
that's a
case
whole
scenario,
separate issue.
say that the storage units was never was never legal, and therefore it's not grandfathered. It doesn't really change what
Okay.
the site plan looks like. The building's there.
Okay.
Right.
If they use it as their business, it doesn't change anything. Now it's just more administrative. Is that use been grandfathered, and if so, they can continue.
But I think the only concern is that there's not confusion.
Right.
That we're granting you that.
Right, with conditions,
But as far as the rental units, that's not part of what we're approving.
we understand.
At all.
No,
So,
there's no confusion there.
okay.
So
good clarification. Any other questions for Steve? I know reading it, the UDOT thing jumped out, but I think with the way this is designed, I don't think that really ways. I mean, the building's there.
Yeah,
It's
it
it's
doesn't-
simply reconfiguring how the parking lot area
Yeah,
works.
there's-
So
it
for me, that
doesn't-
isn't really a
In
concern.
some cases, yeah, it does a major transformation with how the site can be used, but in this case, like I said, if they close the northern one, they still got the southern one to access the property and vice versa. So, if it was their only main one and UDOT said no, that's a big change in design. So staff doesn't feel that it's big, but it's not big enough to table it or anything, so.
Okay, with that, a motion is in order. Well, two motions.
I make a motion that we approve with conditions the site plan for the NCS properties, approximately at 6051 South, 1900 West.
With the
So we have a
conditions.
motion approved with the conditions in the report. Do we
Second.
have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Second motion is in order.
I make a motion that we approve the architectural review with the conditions that all current and future DRC review comments are complied with, along with any conditions as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously as well. Thank you, and we appreciate you investing in our community. Okay, all right.
Appreciate it.
I'll look in that tomorrow and let Nick know. Okay,
He's on vacation now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
okay.
Kind of unrelated, but along the same vein, if you've been in the new Sacos, it's amazing.
It is.
They've really done a good job there and kind of a fun thing. So it's neat to see people reinvesting in our community and making upgrades. With that, we'll move on to number 4, which is a discussion on allowing parking within the front yard during the winter months. So we'll turn it over to Steve.
Well, as in this staff report, or the memo in this case, just kind of a background, in February of this year, myself and Commissioner Spar and Commissioner Tanner, sorry, the rest of you weren't invited, they just wanted 2, and I went, Jason gets off at 3, Dan's right next door, so he can be here quick when the meeting was. I invited Jason Felt too, but, he's a busy man, so, anywho. There was a discussion about parking trailers on the street, amending Title VI, I believe it was. The discussion went, and then someone made a kind of a comment of allowing parking in the front yard. So they dealt with Title VI, allowing trailers to be parked on the street for up to 72 hours. And then they wanted to discuss the comment of allowing parking in the front yard. So that's where myself, Jason, and Dan came into play. We weren't part of the others' discussion, so just this part. There are several issues with it within that discussion that kind of ranged from allowing it all the time to, hey, look, you can park your car on the street for 72 hours unless it snows, and you got to move it. So, parking on the street is still legal. Towards the end of the discussion, it really came down to maybe look at having a snow day exception, so you can park in the front yard, and then you have so many hours to get it off the front yard, kind of like you have 12 hours after a snowstorm to clear your sidewalks. So it kind of left there for the planning commission to kind of take a look at it, see what their thoughts are. No decisions tonight. It's more of how do you want to proceed? Do you want what ordinance type look, what kind of language? Then I can kind of start drafting it up or not, depending on how the discussion goes tonight. So I kind of gave you 3 areas of the code I think it can be in. I'd almost say we probably ought to put it in all of them. Just as people read, they don't get every section, don't understand how one affects the other. So parking in a residential zone where it talks about no vehicle shall be parked or shall be permitted in the front yard setback. So in here, of course, if you do allow for an exception, we would need to put that as an exception that they could do that. In chapter 19, which is the parking ordinance, because if you, down at the bottom, we do have some exceptions on driveway approaches. Normally it's, just 30% unless you live on a really busy street. Then we can give you a second access point, just make it, safer. So there's an exception there, but I'd feel, even putting it on there, if you allow for snow day exceptions, put it there. And then, of course, the 19 again, this one, just like the previous one in 1010, it states that, no required off-street parking space shall be permitted in the front yard setback. So those three sections is what I found that would require some sort of amendment if this body feels that it's whatever direction you go. So really now is just a discussion point for you guys. Thoughts, opinions.
And this is actually in the front yard, not just on
Yep.
a paved,
Right on paved surface. And I,
concrete or paved area.
after that discussion, I gave it some thought. I also drove around a little bit to just see, what kind of real issues we have. And honestly, I don't think there's any validity to it at all. And would recommend that we take no action on it. I just don't know, we all have that incident where we have too many vehicles on our property and during the winter months, they just need to find a better solution. And I don't think on a grass, my belief is this: you allow them to park in the wintertime, they're going to park in the summertime. And so I just don't think it's valid. You shuffle things. You move your trailer to a neighbor's property so you can get all your vehicles on your property. I just don't see parking it on the grass as a solution for anything, only because I just didn't see that many instances where it applied. So we're going to make a change in the ordinance for that minute percent that possibly would have that condition. So, and that's my thoughts.
Yeah, excellent. Any other
Well,
discussion?
I was just wondering if that's something because we had such a bad winter that it came up, because
Well, it actually
has it
happened before
really,
the bulk
has
of
it
it hit
really
us.
came up before this?
Well, I think the few scenarios in which it is an issue, it wouldn't matter heavy snowstorms or light snowstorms. As Commissioner Tanner had mentioned, if I got all my kids living at home and they all have, we have 7 cars and I can only park 6, how often, other than this year, you think the last 3 or 4 years, how many snowfalls did you have that were
Yeah.
as such? This year was an exception to
Yeah,
the,
absolutely.
but even then, you can't park on the street. Where do you park it? And that's kind of where the discussion came in is, should we allow something? But you got maybe 5 snowstorms really a year. Do you allow it? Or do you just say,
Right.
so that's kind of why the discussion, and, I don't really have a direction of which way we should go. I want to leave it up to you.
Yeah.
If you direct me that let's write something, then we'll have more discussions.
I just want some clarification. We mentioned as you were reading some of that, parking within the front setback. Most of my driveway is within that front setback. Is there clarification that says you can park on your driveway?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the
Oh,
way the ordinance
absolutely.
reads is your legal parking spaces must be outside the setbacks, front and side. So your garages, carports are generally where that is.
Right.
And at that point, your driveway now becomes a secondary or an accessory parking pad.
Okay,
So say you converted your garage into living space, I being the mean guy I'm gonna be, I'm gonna make you remove your driveway in front of the house and force it to wherever your new parking space is going to be. So that way you're not parking in the front yard when you're not supposed to. Now, everybody says, well, I've got a driveway. Yeah, but it leads to your legal parking space.
understood. I just want to make sure that it
Yeah.
wasn't,
Where your
wasn't
front-
any ambiguity there.
Yeah, your
Oh,
front
no.
yard's not your legal parking space.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, Jason, how you felt during that conversation, but it sounded like it's just an issue of too many cars. Whether it's multiple families living in the same dwelling, but just too many cars. And quite often in cases that I handle in my job is they have cars stored that technically should be stored someplace else to make room for the cars that are in use. And quite honestly, a garage is not a storage unit. A garage is a garage for cars to be in, and obviously we can't argue that point. But, you know, if there's a problem, maybe you should get a storage unit, put the stuff in the storage unit, park your cars in there to make room for all your cars. And not say, well, I want to put all my junk in the garage and I want to park all my cars on the grass. Oh, nah. To me, that just,
There were some citizens that did show up to talk about the issue.
yeah.
Steve, who's the proponent of this?
Well, again, it's just the ad hoc committee that kind of left the discussion of, you know, maybe let's look into allowing for a snow day exception. So it's not really someone, you know, requesting it.
Okay.
It's just part of that discussion, so I'm just following through, because the ad hoc committee kind of asked,
To get
you
the
know, I haven't seen it on the
commission
planning
input.
commission, are they gonna talk about it, so we're here to talk about it.
Did you mention
It's up to him.
I think we're okay with that if you'd like to come up and say something.
Not mine
We're
either.
having an informal discussion, so. Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know.
I don't know.
We didn't mean to single you out.
Hey, if you show up, we'll hear you out, so.
Microphone down, so you don't have to stand on your tippy toes.
Now I've broken it. Okay.
Name.
Somebody when I posted the agenda for this meeting.
Name.
Sorry, Glenda Moore, and my address is out there. When I posted the agenda on Facebook, somebody said a comment about this particular topic, and he said that many of his neighbors already park on their yard, and all the time. And I said, well, that's kind of hard on landscape. And he says, yes, all the yards look pretty crappy. And I think that's something to consider, is even if you only got one day that you're parking your truck or your car or your trailer on your front yard, you've got months of having to fix that. And also, at least two of the people that were in that ad hoc meeting have multiple vehicles. And I think one of them has already received a citation for parking on the front lawn. So
Oh, yeah.
anyway, that was all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Valid point.
Do you have any other comments, Commissioner Spar, where you were at the part of the discussion?
I personally was okay with having a temporary one that expired the next day or within whatever it was, is like 12 hours. There were a lot of different options they could have gone with, but I'm with most everybody else. I don't like the parking in the front yard, what would be considered the front yard. So, but a temporary couple hours, that's one of those things that for me, I don't know that if the person's on their lawn for a couple hours during a snowstorm, that anybody would complain about that anyway if they moved it right back not that far after, you know?
Right.
To me, it'd be almost like washing your car on your lawn and then you move it afterwards. I don't think anybody would be upset about that. So to me, I don't feel that there needs to be a change as well, but.
So I guess the question is, where do we want to go from
Well,
here? Do we
again,
want
It's
to?
really up to you. If you want to, you know, if this body wanted to give me direction of which way to take this, I could look at the three sections and, you know, how to put verbiage into it. I might ask Matt as well. Or if this body says, you know, it's just not an idea we want to pursue, then that's where I'll take it.
Because
or not.
personally, I don't really see much of a need to change the current standards. I mean, I've got 3 teenage drivers
Oh,
at my house, and
Make
I mean, we
accommodations.
make it work, and I think there's ample opportunity within the ordinance now to create spaces around your house that do adequately meet the parking. And I know winter sometimes can be a little rough and trying to find that, but
I think there was also a discussion about a hardship, like you could go to the city and ask for a hardship permit.
yeah, they talked about it, but that's not really where it landed on, because they talked about, you know, a permit or a hardship or stuff like that, and they didn't really want to go the permit route, because then that would force people to have to come up and, talk to the city to get it, where if, you just did an exception in the ordinance, then everybody could do it, so.
I think the issue you run into is nobody reads the ordinance. I think you're kind of looking at a
What?
big surprise. A can of worms is what I think you're kind of looking at with this.
Agree with Commissioner Tanner, how people start doing it anytime.
Yeah, and the other part of that is enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right, that's what I'm
Holy
talking about,
cow.
can of worms.
it's like, okay, now we're gonna allow it, now they've got to go around and start timers on everything to say, okay, it's been 24 hours.
We shouldn't be creating anything that's
It's
unenforceable.
like, okay, do we really need to put code enforcement or police, through that
Agreed.
responsibility for something that is so insignificant that it just doesn't make any sense.
Agreed.
It just doesn't, so I just think we don't take any action on it at all.
Steve, I think we should save you some work time and not do anything about it.
I'm
It seems
okay
to be a problem that is de minimis.
Okay, that's okay. I wanted to bring up discussion, usually it's during work sessions, but this one was important enough
good
that I
enough.
was asked to bring it during
Yeah.
this meeting, so.
Commissioner Felt has one more
I just-
question.
When you started the conversation, you mentioned something about trailers on the street. I just wanted some clarification on that, because I have a trailer and I store it off-site because I don't have room on my,
Felt trailer.
yeah, go ahead and write it down.
Do you want his address too, so you can follow it now?
We know where he
yeah, I'll
lives.
give you my address.
We know where he lives.
Anyway,
But when I go camping, I bring it around from where it's at, park it in front of my house overnight, so we can pack it the night before, and then we take it out.
Right.
And I've been known to park it there overnight to do a repair on it. I'm asking the question because I want to make sure I understand what,
you have 72 hours.
I have, that's what I heard you say, but I want to make sure, okay.
Yep.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Okay,
I mean, years ago it was 72, and then I can't remember how long ago the council changed it to 48. Then it just got changed back to 72.
Was that
Okay.
for trailers or that for
It's for
time
everything.
limited? That's time limited for everything.
It was,
Interesting. We give them 24.
and that's just in winter months, or is that, so you can't park a car on the road for any longer than 72 hours
year.
period?
All year.
Really?
Without it being moved.
Yeah, you gotta move it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So if
So
you
if it's,
park your car overnight, and you take it, go to work, and come back, it's been moved.
gotcha, okay. Like I said,
No, 72 hours is if it's not moved.
so if it's on concrete cinder blocks and no wheels on it, then it's going to get some attention, is what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Expired plates for 2 years.
Make sure I'm clear.
It's likely stored there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like kind of the consensus is that we just leave that alone and
I think so.
Okay, no problem.
go that route. Okay, the next item on our agenda is Commissioner's Minute, and I don't have anything. Do any of the other planning commissioners have anything you'd like to
No.
bring up?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to staff update.
I really don't have much. I mean, you guys know the general plan got approved. We're at the tail end of the station area plan. She thought I said stationary, so. But when I say it fast, stationary plan, it kind of, anyway. So we're on the tail end of that. I gotta talk to Matt Andrews, not this one, and see if we'll have a joint work session to hear about it on the 25th, so it'd be Wednesday. Or if the council is unable to attend, then it'd probably, maybe just you guys, but that way it can kind of keep going through the process. It's right now 90% done, written, so they, at least want some comments from you guys when they do a presentation. We do have a deadline to get that approved in June, so they're kind of proceeding forward. So hopefully it's in front of you guys next meeting in May, and then to the council either end of May or in June. So, and again, that's just taking everything within a half mile of the front runner station, and how is it gonna, develop density. This kind of, I'll put this on record. The sad part is we've already done that with the Focus Roy in 2017, and then we're writing the ordinance to have it down there where it's density and materials and yada, yada, yada. But when the state made it a requirement for every city to have it, we kind of had to back into it. So we've kind of tried to, when we had public meetings or stuff, it's like, we're not changing the ordinance. We're gonna make the plan fit what's already been looked at by the city. So it's kind of a back into it to get to the forward part, but the state didn't think our 2017 plan was up to date to the standards they wanted it, so. The great thing is it's cost us nothing.
Right.
We got a grant for the whole thing.
Good.
Don't let Kevin hear that. Okay,
Okay, with that, I think there's a final motion in order.
Motion to adjourn.
It's non-debatable. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Seconded it.
Oh,
I'll
no, we need a second.
Okay, he's-
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
He even said aye. He's done.
I'm not the one that says no.
Nope.
Oh, Chris does it. Oh, okay.
Chris is
Never mind.
Chris is the
He normally sits there and it's like,
no guy.